Hi lovelies, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be going about the cutting and the sewing of this beautiful milk-made gypsy gown. You see right here, so it also has these straps that I can see clearly tied on top of the shoulder. So I was inspired to recreate this dress from a popular brand, which is House of Naya Official or something like that. So it's detailed and it's beginners friendly. If it sounds like something you're interested in learning, continue watching and let's get started. So I sourced for this exact fabric while I was recreating mine, and for this fabric you need about 3 to 4 yards of fabric. So I made it of 3 yards of fabric, and that is basically it. And here now we're gonna head to draft at a half scale basic bodice, which is a necessity and the foundation of any dress you want to make. So I marked out all my lines and also divided my nipple to nipple point of 8 inches into two. I also marked my dart and replaced my dart at the side. So that first line at the top part of my paper is my shoulder line. For my shoulder line, I marked 8 inches my chest line, my bust point, my under bust, and my half length of 16 inches, and I added extra half inch for joining allowance. Divide your waist circumference and also input all your body measurements. Now from the chest line, I went up by 1.5 inches, as you can see clearly, and I connected that point into a straight line. So after that, I'll come to my under bust line, which is a line labeled UB, and from that line I marked 1 inch upward this way. So this 1 inch I've marked upward, I'll connect it to my under bust using my curve rule. So go ahead and place your curve rule properly, just the same way I'm doing mine right here, and connect it to that 1 inch you came up by on your under bust line. So this is what it should look like after connecting. So from my dart leg, I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple point divided by 2, which is 4 inches, towards the sides this way. So I'll place it on my bust point line on my dart leg and mark 4 inches. So you're going to connect this to your under bust line, just the same we connected the other one. So ensure that you place your curve rule properly this way so that your boobs can sit properly, just the same way I've done mine, and connect it to your armhole. So after that, I went ahead now to mark my stitching allowance of 1 inch. That is the normal stitching allowance I use most of the time. So I went ahead now to connect this dot. So now we are done drafting. I'm just going to cut out the base, the sides, and also from that point I came up by 1.5 inches from my chest line. I'll also cut off the armhole area as well. So after this, now I'm going to cut out the back part of our dress. Okay, so I need a straight paper, and because that part is not straight, I had to use my straight ruler to rule a straight line. So from that straight line, I'll start marking 1 inch. So this 1 inch is going to be for my zipper allowance. So after marking this 1 inch, I'll also rule these dots and now place this my paper from that second line which I've marked right there. So that part right there is my zip allowance. So I'm going to use my ruler to trace out the base and also the darts. I'll trace out the top part and also these lines at both sides, so that by the time I remove this front pattern paper I have, I'm going to have the actual lines I have duplicated for this other part of my pattern paper. Okay, so I'll trace out the sides and the base and every other part so you can see what I have. So I'll go ahead now to join these lines which I already traced out. So after this, now I just went ahead to recreate my dart. Okay, so at both sides mark half of an inch outward this way and now connect it to the upper part of your dress. So your dart getting to the upper part for your back bodies is totally okay, it's 100% okay. So from my zipper I went out by half of an inch and I slanted it up by 6 inches. So this is for our zipper slope to avoid bulginess at the back of our zipper. So that is it for the back part of this our dress, and I'll go ahead and cut out. So now we have our front and our back basic bodies. You can see they have scale basic bodies. So I'm going to finish up the working with the front part of our basic bodies. So from that 1 inch you're going to cut away the cup area. Okay, so you can see what I'm cutting out right here. This is also what you should cut out as well. So after cutting it out, I just went ahead to mark 1.5 inches from the center of my cup area, and I ruled that into a straight line. So the spaces I have in between here will be 1.5 inches. If I mark it, I'll rule it into a straight line, as you can see I'm doing right here. Okay, So after that, I'll go ahead and label 1 2 3 4. I think it was 5 pieces here, so I'm going to slash it out entirely. So after cutting this out, I'll go ahead and get another clean piece of my pattern paper, and I'm going to rule a straight line this way. Okay, so this will be my guide for me to place my pieces of patterns I've cut out for my cup. So I got number 1 and I placed it, making sure that the third line on my number 1 pattern paper aligns with this line, this straight line I drew on my pattern paper. Okay, so I also marked 1.5 inches space in between number 1 and number 2 paper. So just watch carefully, you understand everything I'm doing right here. So for my number 3, I'm going to mark 1.5 inches from this number 2 paper I have. You can see right there, and on that point exactly, I'm going to place my number 3 paper, and the third lines on this paper I'm placing on this clean sheet of my pattern paper are the ones placed on that line. Okay, so just follow exactly what I'm doing right here. You are going to continue doing this until you get to the last piece of paper. Okay, so now is the 5th one, and I'm just using my sellotape to hold this down. You can actually go ahead to use your pin. Okay, so I now went ahead to connect the upper part and the lower part so that they can align properly, and I'm now going ahead to cut this out. So after cutting this out, now you can see what I have. So by the time we gather this, is going to give this milkmaid effect on our dress. Go ahead and close up the dart area on the remaining body parts of your pattern. I don't need the dart. Okay, so I closed it up. So this is what it looks like for the cup area and for the body of our front dress, and here is the back part, which I'll go ahead and cut out on my fabric. Now for the lower part of our dress or our gown, we're actually going to subtract our half length from our full length. So my full length is 38 inches. If I subtract 16 inches, which is my half scale bodice, from it, I have 22 inches. This means that the lower part of our gown is going to be 22 inches long. So behind the camera, I've gone ahead now to cut out this. So one of these is 12 inches long, the other is 10 inches long, but I added stitching allowance of 2 inches extra to the both parts. So this shorter one now is 12 inches long. Okay, by the time I'm done stitching and joining a lot of that, it will come to 10 inches. Then this other one, which is underneath, is the longer one. It is 14 inches long at the moment. So when I'm done joining and everything, it will come to 12 inches, because 10 plus 12 inches is 22 inches. So I just wanted the shorter one to be kind of around the hip area, so that was why I left it at 10 inches. All right, so we all know that this gown has 2 tiers, right? So the first tier is shorter and the second tier is longer. So for the waist area of the first tier, I'm going to multiply your waist circumference by 3. So I multiplied mine and I had 99 inches. So this is for the first tier. So I'm measuring this out now for you all to see what I have right here. So I was just short of 2 inches, but it's actually okay. So for the second tier, which is the longer part, you are going to divide whatever your answer is for the first tier. Mine is 99 inches, so I multiplied it by 2. So when I multiplied mine, it was 198 inches. So I had to cut out 2 lengths of this fabric, which is 99 inches wide for each of them, and I'll later join them together later. Okay, so I've gone ahead now to actually cut out on my fabric, and you can see what I have. For the back part, at that top part, I added 1 inch for my 1 inch at the top part of my cup for folding, and all around is half of an inch. So for the body part, at that part where you see my fabric longer than my pattern paper, is because when I folded in my dart, it was kind of slanty, so I had to cut this out straight. Okay, so around the cup area I also added half of an inch. So you're going to cut out a long piece, which is going to serve as your rope, folding it twice at both sides to get rid of the rough edges before you fold in again for the third time. So I'll remove all my pattern paper from my fabric right now so that I can start sewing. So here is what the front part looks like when I spread it out, and you can see. So I'll work for the cup area right now. So from that top part, you're going to fold in this to get rid of these rough edges. So I'm going to weave mine first actually. So just folding yours twice and ensure there is this space or channel created in between so that your rope can pass through. But before you fold that top part, please go ahead and fold the straight part on your cup. You know, one side is curved, that is the side towards the armhole is curved, and the other part is straight. So the straight part, you have to fold it in twice before you go ahead to fold the top part, so that your rope can easily pass through. Okay, so you understand this later while I've done all of this. Okay, so go ahead and do that, and all around beneath your cup area, go ahead and run your gather stitch. Okay, so for the back part of my dress, I'll also go ahead and repeat the same thing. I'm going to fold the top part and iron all of this out properly. Now come and show you all what I have. So this is what I have after I've gone ahead to do all of that. I went ahead to iron. I've run my gather stitch underneath my cup area, and I folded in my rope, and you can see how neat it's looking right here. So for the back part of my upper dress, I also went ahead to stitch in my darts and also fold in that upper part. So this is what I have. So I'll just keep the back part aside so that I can work with the front. So for the front now, it has this W shape when you spread it out. So I'm going to get one part of my cup area first. I'll have to pass my rope through that channel after I've gone ahead to run this gather stitch around. As you can see, I'm showing you all right here. Okay, so get your safety pin it to your rope. Okay, so pin it and pass it through that upper part on the cup area. So you're going to pass it through from the straight part all the way to the cuff part on your cup. So when you now get there, use your pin and hold it down. The part towards your armhole. Okay, that's just the only part I meant to stitch down so that it doesn't slip off. Okay, so do it for the two parts of your cup. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do this first before I'll join this my cup to the body part of my dress. So having done that, now you can see what I have. So I have this my rope very firm on this my cup right now. So I'll go ahead now and now pull this thread I have on my cup area to fit in on this cup part on the body part of my dress. So get the straight part on your cup area. You are going to pin it from exactly that pointy part or the center front of your dress. Okay, so you're going to pin it all around and ensure that it gets up to the armhole for the body part of your dress. Okay, so these exercises now, you just have to make sure that you pin them together with the body part or the around the cup area. So ensure that on your actual dress or the body of your dress, you don't have any folds. The only gathers you should have should be on the cup area of your dress. Okay, just as you can see I'm doing right here. So after pinning, you realize that I don't have any folds on the body part of my dress. The only part I have this gathers effect is on my cup. So you see, I just pinned it down. So when you pin, go ahead and stitch. All right, so for the other cup part, you're actually going to also place it from that middle or pointy part on your body, on the body of your dress, but you kind of overlap it on top of the first stitch you've made or the first cup you have. Okay, so that to be looking somewhat like this, so that by the time you wear your dress, it's not going to expose your boobs at all. Okay, so you go ahead and do that and also weave, and this is what I have. So you can see how neat this is already looking, and I can easily pull on my threads right now and it will give me this milkmaid or gathers effect. Okay, so this is what yours should also look like, and if it looks like this, you're actually okay and good to go. So the next thing I'm going to work on right now is the lower part of our gown. So I'm going to get the longer part of my gown, which is the second tier. So I'm going to get it. I weaved one side, so this one part I weaved will be sitting on top of the first tier. So this type of gypsy gown has one on top of the other. Okay, so this part now that I weaved, I'm actually going to fold it in. So I've actually joined the two pieces I showed you all earlier, so this is why it is very long. Okay, so I'm going to fold this in this way. Now you can see, so I'm going to fold it in this way and now run a stitch, a very straight stitch. So when I run a very normal straight stitch, I'll go ahead and also run a gather stitch beneath the first straight stitch. So this is for the first tier, which is the shorter one. So at this top part, I'm going to run a gather stitch All right, so I just folded it in to get the middle of this first tier, which is this one. So I've gone ahead now to run this gather stitch, and it's gathered a little while I was doing this on my sewing machine, but I'll still go ahead to achieve more gathers effect to fit into my waist. So this is the longer tier. Remember, I folded one part, but for the first tier I just ran a gather stitch. I didn't fold anything. Okay, so this is what I have. And then underneath that first stitch, you're going to run a gather stitch straight, because this style of dress requires a whole lot of gathers. Okay, so now I want to cut out for my sleeve, because I didn't really maintain that exact sleeve. So my client opted for a more decent sleeve, but I'll still show you all how to achieve that sleeve. It's quite simple. It's just cut out straps and fix it at the front and the back part and tie it on top of your shoulder. Is actually very simple, but I'll still show you how to go about that. Okay, so I cut off this my sleeve in case you just want to go with the same sleeve I have right here. Okay, so now here's the upper part of my dress. I'll go ahead now to join the front and the back part together. So on the sides and the armhole, make sure that they both align, and pin as well. So after pinning from the armhole, I came down by half of an inch. Then from that half of an inch, I started marking 1 inch, which is my stitching allowance. So this will enable my sleeve to freely pass through my armhole when I'm fixing it. Okay, so I don't have to start losing the body part of my dress. Okay, so do the same thing for the both parts. As you can see, I'm doing right here, and mark your 1 inch or whichever stitching allowance given to yours and stitch. So I'll go ahead now and do all of that, and this is what I have after stitching. So I'll fold this my dress into two so that I can get the middle and notch. So now I'm going to join the upper part and the lower part of this my dress together. Okay, so now I have the middle of this. I'm going to get that first tier I have. So remember that I notched the center of this my first tier. So the notch part on my first tier and the notch part on the body of my dress, I'll pin them together. So I'll get the ends of one side of my first tier and now pin it together with the ends of the body part of my dress. Okay, so this is how I normally achieve my gathers, so that I can have the same gathers effect at both sides of my dress. Because if you don't go about doing this, you might have one part of your gathers fuller than the other one. Okay, so I went ahead now to pin the middle and also the sides. So now this SSTs I have on my first tier, I'll make sure that I pull the sides or the rope on my tier to achieve the same size or the waist for this side of my dress. Okay, so you can see that I took my time to do this actually. So I went ahead to do this. As I'm pulling my ropes or my thread at the side, I'm arranging it on the waist area of my dress. So this is for just one side of my dress. Okay, the other side I've not yet touched it. Okay, so this is how I normally do mine. I work on one part. When I've achieved exactly what I want, and I'll go ahead and work for the other part. So take your time, pin, arrange this, pull this, but don't pull too hard so that you don't cut your thread, because it will be a whole lot of stress to go ahead to do this. This is actually very long. And pin. So you can see now that after all my time invested in doing all of this actually aligned on the waist part. This is for one side of my dress, so you can see that it aligns. So I'll stitch using just half of an inch, and now this is what I'm going to have. So for the other part, I'll repeat the same process. I'm going to repeat the same process for this other part. I'll pin the ends of my tier to the ends of my body part of my dress together. Okay, and stitch. So after stitching, now this is what I have. So you can see how nice it's already looking. So I'm also going to notch the middle of this my tier. So this is the wrong side. Okay, I joined into the waist using half of an inch. As you can see it very clearly right here. So I'm also going to bring this together to notch the middle. Okay, so I'm going to notch the middle part of this my first tier, but I went ahead to just measure out the length so you all can see. What I have left now is 1 inch, which will still work on later on. Okay, so now for my second tier, I'm going to get it. So that I joined two of this my second tier. So from that joints I have from my second tier will be serving as my guide as the middle. Okay, so I'm just going to notch the middle part of this my first tier. Then from that joints I have from these two fabrics on my second tier, I'm going to pin it on the notch I have on my first tier. But before I pin, I'm going to mark 1 inch because I want this second tier to be 1 inch on top of the first tier of my gown. So you're going to mark it from the hem or the ends of your first tier. Just mark 1 inch upward as I've done and pin. So I'll also get the ends of my second tier and pin it together with the ends, okay, on the sides of my first tier. So I also mark 1 inch up. I hope everything is very clear to you all right now. So you all can see what I'm doing here so far. And also don't forget that I actually ran a gather stitch beneath my first stitch on this second tier. So all these things I have right now, I'm going to pull them carefully. I'm going to pull carefully. So when you're running your gather stitch on any fabric of your choice, you actually need to leave like more like excess ropes or threads at the side so that you can easily pull. Okay, so I'm going to arrange this and make sure that all of these excesses I have corresponds and aligns with the base or the hem of my first tier. So just continue watching and you see how it goes. So you can see that I'm marking that 1 inch. As I'm marking my 1 inch, I'm making sure that I'm pinning this my second tier exactly on that 1 inch on top of my first tier or my first layer. Okay, so as you are pinning, please ensure that you arrange this properly. The folds you have on your second tier should not be inside. It should be seated on top, like the neat part, that is the good part, that's the top part should be on top of your first layer. Okay, so it shouldn't be inside. Just have a closer look at what I'm doing. All right, so I'm going to do this. By the time I'm done pinning, I'm just going to run a stitch on top. So you're not going to now run it from the wrong side. No, you're going to run a stitch on top, that is on the right side of your fabric. Okay, so you're going to run that stitch on top of the stitch you already have on top of your second layer of this your dress. Okay, so you're going to run a stitch on the right side now, not on the wrong side of your fabric. Okay, so I took my whole time to do this, and this is what I have at the end of the day. Okay, so I'll quickly go to my sewing machine now and stitch this down so you can see what I have. So you can see I just did for one part. Okay, so you can see I'm just showing you what I have. So I'm going to repeat the same thing for this other parts now. Okay, so that's why I tell you that I usually work with one side before I work with the other side. So after that, now you can see how beautiful this is looking. You can see how nice it's looking. So for this extra 1 inch at the wrong side, I'll weave it out entirely later on. Okay, so this is the right side. So if you want to fix a strap to yours, from the armhole just mark 5 inches, cut out a rope similar to the one fixed at our cup area. So mark 5 inches inward from your armhole and fix it to the front and back, and now tie it on your shoulder. So this is my own outcome. So you can see the sleeve I told you all my clients opted for. We are kind of the same body size. That was why it kind of fits me, not so much. So thank you so much for watching. So this is it for today's tutorial. I hope you all found this helpful. Thank you so much for sticking right here with me. I love you all. See you all in my next one. I have a lovely time ahead of you. Bye.